You might notice throughout this video that I interchangeably pronounce it Ghibli and Ghibli, and I'm not really sure which one is right. So a little while ago, HarperCollins were kind enough to give me a free ticket to go see When Marnie Was There. This was amazing for me because I am a huge Studio Ghibli fan. When I got the email, I think I lunged at my computer going, yes, yes, a million times yes. And I can tell you right now, the film did not disappoint. It is the story of a young girl whose asthma is quite bad, so she's sent away to the countryside because that will help her breathe better. Only right from the beginning, there's clearly a lot more to it than that. Her and her mother clearly have a very interesting relationship. There's clearly something to learn there. She also clearly doesn't really have any very good friends. She likes drawing and sketching, and she's very solitary in that. When she goes away and stays with her aunt and uncle, it's a much more traditional place, and they live by a lake. And there's an old house there. It looks like a ruin. One night she goes and explores it. It's completely abandoned and empty. Only when she's leaving, there's a light on in the window. She then meets Marnie, a beautiful girl who is instantly her friend. They are best friends very quickly. Marnie takes her for parties at the house, which definitely isn't abandoned when she's there. They picnic and row and discuss everything together. But there's clearly something odd about Marnie. She might not even really be there. And in truly amazing Studio Ghibli fashion, they weave this magic around this beautiful friendship between two young female characters. I loved the film of When Marnie Was Here, and it turns out the story was based on a book which HarperCollins were not only kind enough to give me to read, they were kind enough to give you some to read. I've got 3 copies to give away. I'm going to be giving one away on Twitter by retweeting this tweet, one away on Instagram by liking this picture, and one away on Facebook by commenting on this post. So no matter what social media you use, you've got an opportunity to go win one, or try and win all 3 if you want to be guaranteed to get one. For those who know absolutely nothing about Studio Ghibli, you need to. It's one of my absolute beloveds. I pretty much, if I could, would just watch only animated movies, and theirs are the best. Next to Pixar. If you've no idea where to start, or if you want to debate with me, these are my top 5. So I have to start with my Neighbor Totoro. He is so huggable. That's because this is where I started. It's actually one of my earliest memories watching this on TV. And I don't really understand what version I watched because it was definitely in English, but it was a dub that isn't the one that's on DVD now that everyone watches. I'm not really sure if the one I watched exists anymore. But it's the story of 2 young girls, sisters, whose mother is very ill in hospital, and yet they go on adventures and explore the forest around them. And even though their parents are suffering and dealing with their own things, the spirit of the forest and cat buses are there for them. My second favourite is again the second one I watched, which was Kiki's Delivery Service. My mum was actually born in Japan, which meant that growing up we used to get a lot of parcels from Japan. We'd send some back over with lots of very stereotypically British things in. They'd send us lots of amazingly Japanese things. And one of them was a VHS of Kiki's Delivery Service, completely in Japanese. As a small child, I think I knew the words hello and goodbye and mummy and daddy, and maybe how to count to 10, but that was it. I knew no more. But somehow I still watched this film and was entranced by this film. I used to watch it over and over and over again. I think I wore that tape to death, and yet with no idea what was actually being said. I think I had my own idea of the story, or lots of ideas of the story, of what it could possibly be. When I finally watched it in English about 10 years later, it was almost disappointing to actually have it fixed down, this is what it means. I think I still have all those millions of stories I made up for it there in my head though, which is why I love it so much. For those who've never seen it, there was a girl, a young witch, and she had a broomstick. And I think young witches went and kind of made their fortune when they reached a certain age. They flew off into the wide world to find their calling. Also, it's got the cutest talking cat you'll ever find. Gigi. I definitely need to get a cuddly Gigi as well. Number 3 is Spirited Away. This is probably where I properly learned that Studio Ghibli was actually a thing, that these films I had been watching were all from the same company, that they all had the same kind of ethos and art style and beauty about them. This one definitely aired in UK cinemas when I was a teen, and I remember going to see it in the cinema, and it's so weird and yet so astounding. It again has a magic system that is so brilliant and so unlike anything else I'd been familiar with. It's about a young girl whose parents help themselves to a feast that they probably shouldn't, and thus get turned into pigs. And our protagonist, Chihiro, has to work in a bathhouse to win them back. A bathhouse that caters to souls and demons and ghosts. I actually cosplayed Chihiro when I was about 16. I properly made my pink outfit, sewed it, and my friend went as No Face. Number 4 is Howl's Moving Castle, because I really couldn't not love this film. Howl's Moving Castle was actually one of my favourite books growing up by Diana Wynne Jones, and I think I had the audio tape. Again, it was one I used to listen to over and over again. I must have driven my parents absolutely mad. It means that I can still kind of recite it because I listened to it so much. In the land of Ingery, where 7-league boots and cloaks of invisibility really do exist, it is misfortune to be born the eldest of 3. I don't know if that's exactly right. I should maybe look that up before I air the video. So I was aware of Studio Ghibli when this was announced, and I was ecstatic. And I think they did a better treatment of this book than anyone would have been able to do. Their moving castle, it had feet. It was nothing like I'd possibly imagined my castle when I read the books, and yet it fits so perfectly. This is the story of Sophie, a hat maker who is cursed by the Witch of the Wastes into an old woman. And she ends up with Howl, the magician, who eats young girls' hearts aboard his moving castle. There's a brilliant relationship between Howl and Sophie where they basically end up kind of breaking each other's curses. It's just beautiful. Oh, there's also a talking fireplace called Calcifer. He is brilliant. And a door where you change the handle from red to green to black to blue, and it opens in different places. Howl's Moving Castle, movie and book, are definitely formative stories of my life. And finally, number 5, my last favourite of the genre, is When Marnie Was There. That's how good it is. It's made top 5. So I really do recommend you go and watch the movie, you go and read the books. If you've already seen it, tell me in the comments what you think. If you haven't yet read it, do try and win one. I'd love to discuss with you what you thought. Also, let me know in the comments what your favourite Studio Ghibli film is. There's actually a few I haven't yet watched. I really have to get around to them. Other than that, guys, I will see you in my next video. Bye.
Phenomenal book, Maresi. I'm not even gonna try.
Touch chandelier.